Hello and welcome to Outside In. My name is Steven. The other day I got a phone call from the Amish. They wanted to go to Lake Lure, North Carolina for some relief cleanup. There was more people that wanted to go than I had room in my expedition, so they asked me if I could drive a van for them. I said, yes, I'd love to. You probably can't see it. If I look a little dirty, it's because I've been helping them. After our first job that we went to, they cleaned up and then we come here to our second job, and that's where we're at right now. The lady that owns this house, absolutely incredible. So I asked her if she would like to tell her story, and she said yes. She had to go out to speak to FEMA, and she said she'd be right back. So I thought while I was waiting for her, I would get set up and ready to go. So this is the property here, and she has some incredible stories of what this used to be and sadly what it is now. So the Amish are here now. As you can see, they're in the background. They're cleaning up some mud around the property. When she gets back, I look forward to doing this interview with her. So as soon as she gets back, I'll be right with you and we'll get her story out there to you. Just keep all of these people in your prayers that they're able to recover from this devastation. This is my first opportunity to be able to interview somebody. So as soon as she gets back, I'll be right back. First of all, would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Holly Jensen.
Okay. And this is Lake Lure?
This is Lake Lure, North Carolina.
Okay, and I was just talking to another guy that we were just at doing some work for them. He said most all the devastation was around, was it Chimney Rock?
Chimney Rock got the worst of it for sure. I mean,
so
half or more of the town itself is gone. Just
before we got to your house, it was crazy.
Well, so anywhere that you're close to the river is where you're going to see the most of the devastation. This storm was not just a hurricane like we think of it, like, you know, wind and rain, but this was a flood event as well. We're used to thinking of hurricanes on the coast where you get a storm surge and it comes in with the tide, and at high tide, you know, it's higher, and then the tide recedes and the storm surge goes out. It's slightly different here because the Hickory Nut Gorge where we're standing, we're at the bottom of the gorge. So we've got mountains all around us, and this part of the Blue Ridge Escarpment fluvial water system, basically all the rivers, if they come down on this side of the escarpment instead of going the other way towards Tennessee, they're all going to collect right here in the Hickory Nut Gorge.
Wow. Coming this far north, a hurricane, and doing this much, this had to be such a surprise and shock.
Such a surprise. Who knew? I mean, I lived at the coast for many years. I left the coast because I was tired of the hurricanes.
Right. Yeah.
And now I've gotten slapped by the biggest one yet in the mountains. It's crazy.
I mean, talk about irony, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
But earlier you was telling me that right down here there was a beautiful pond, or what was you calling it?
Yeah, it's called the Lake Lure Lagoon, and it was a beautiful little secret little idyllic spot where there's about 6 of us around this beautiful sort of a glorified pond, but you know, we called it the lagoon to make ourselves feel fancy. And there's a sweet little canal that connects it to the river and the lake. And when you paddle down that little canal, it was a beautiful shady tree-lined canal. It felt like you were in a different dimension.
Wow.
Very peaceful, very calm, lots of wildlife. I've seen turtles and birds and fish and bobcats and deer and bear. I mean, you name it. We've seen all the wildlife back here. It was such a wonderful way to start the day, to have a cup of coffee on the back porch. And
now you're talking my language.
Just watch the birds, watch the fish jump. It was so lovely.
Wow.
And now you can see it's just been completely silted in with all the mud.
Right.
And like I was saying, everything from higher elevations ended up down here. So this is the accumulation of a lot of stuff that got pushed through the water system and ended up in the bottom of the gorge.
Yeah, and the last place we were just at, you might even know it. He has a little ice cream shop.
Yeah, the ice cream shop.
Yeah, super nice guy, and his son and daughter was here helping him. to hear them talk about the way it used to be, and they showed me some pictures before
Yeah.
all of this, and it's just sad to see.
We're just one little dot in this swath of devastation.
Do you see a lot of neighbor helping neighbor? And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, since the morning of the flood, a friend of mine who lives about a mile down the road was actually here during the storm. And he walked around and took some of the first videos that made it out into the world of what was happening in Lake Lure and Chimney Rock. And as soon as he got in touch with me that morning and started sending me the videos, I got in touch with the rest of my neighbors on the lagoon, and we've been in constant communication ever since.
wow.
Lake Lure is a very small community, so we know how to band together and support each other.
Okay, so now other people that want to come in and help, they're being scared right now because
Right.
there's a lot of stories going around that cops are threatening to arrest people.
So it gets tricky because at the beginning, the roads were really dangerous. They didn't know if the bridges were stable. There were a lot of people still missing and unaccounted for.
Right, a safety issue, I
A
understand
lot of
that.
safety issues. Right now, it gets a little tricky because the crews are out working on the roads, like the utility crews, the power crew, the cable people, the Wi-Fi people, all trying to restore all of our services. That's all going to be done soon enough, and I'm sure that they'll stop the checkpoint very soon. They've already loosened up. At first we had 3 or 4 different checkpoints, and I had to show my credentials at every single one just to come to my house, and I got shut out
okay.
for the first week and a half
Right.
because it just wasn't safe to come across.
Yeah.
And frankly, the amount of debris that got stuck at our highway bridge on Memorial Highway, it's got everything in it. It's got people's houses, it's got septic tanks, it's got swing sets, it's got
Right. Yeah.
casualties. And they have to be very sensitive. They can't just scoop up with an excavator a gigantic chunk of this stuff. They have to look through it because there's a lot of people unaccounted for, and people got swept downstream, and they're trying to recover the casualties. And we all need to be sensitive to that. Nobody needs
Exactly.
to see that
Right.
on the side
No,
of the road
right.
just because you
Wow.
got to come and look at the mud in your basement. It's not that important.
Right, right. You're going into a destruction zone where there's a lot of opportunity to seriously get hurt.
Yeah.
And if they let you through and turn their eye, you could fall into a hole, and then they're trying to rescue you now.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that could be why when we came in here today, we got stopped by the police, and then they were sitting in the van for a while, the truck pulling the trailer.
Yeah.
And then the cops made us turn around, and I was like, okay, what's going on? They're not letting us in. So then we went up and they pulled over, and I pulled in behind them, and then we sat there for about 15 minutes, and then they went and turned around. I'm like, okay, maybe they're going to try it again. So then as soon as we got down there, the cops just
Yeah.
flagged us through. So you don't have any idea what that may be for?
They're just being cautious because there have already been several incidents where people came to Lake Lure disguised as first responders.
Oh, yes, okay.
But they were
Yeah.
actually looters.
Oh my.
And they
That's-
talked their way through the checkpoint at the beginning, and then they were unsupervised behind the checkpoint and all these empty vacant houses, and they were caught trying to pull up to a house to unload the house of all the things that are in it.
Oh my, that's terrible.
And that's happened several times. And I posted something about that on Facebook because somebody was asking about the checkpoints, and I said, they're really being cautious because of the looters. And a bunch of people were sort of saying, that's silly, that's not happening, you're making this up, don't be a fearmonger. And I'm like, I'm not the one that's telling these stories. I'm just down at the community center every day trying to serve lunch to the first responders and listening to what they're talking about. And they're the ones who were saying that they had caught this looter or that looter or this truck of people disguised as whatever. I forget if it was firefighters
So it was
or
the
whatever.
ones who live here.
Yeah, it was the police, and it was the firemen, and it was the people who were the boots on the ground who knew about the looters and
Right.
capturing certain people
Yeah.
who were not doing the right thing in a storm situation.
Exactly. You also told me a story up there
Oh yeah, Kathy.
Yeah, I love that story.
So Kathy, who is pretty much the head of the Flowering Bridge, or what used to be the Flowering Bridge, Kathy Tanner, she's a really sweet lady. And she put her heart and soul into that Flowering Bridge, and it showed. It was such a glorious attraction for our town. And we're all devastated that the bridge is gone, but a lot of the debris got swooped down this way in the lagoon area. So a couple days ago, I had seen a brightly colored piece of wood across the way, and I knew it was from one of the displays at the Flowering Bridge. So I got my mud boots on and I went over there to try to rescue it for the town. And I did, and it's in my yard. I just need to clean it off before I give that to her. But I found another one while I was over there. There's a little chunk of wood, like a little stump, and it had a little painted door on it that said Santa's Workshop.
Okay.
They do seasonal displays at the Flowering Bridge all year long, and this was one from Christmas time. And I picked up this sweet little chunk of muddy stump with Santa's Workshop door on it, and I cleaned it off a little bit, and I took it a couple days ago. I took it over to Kathy at Lourdes Market, where she was working, sorting donations and things. And I told her, Kathy, I have something special for you. And I gave her this muddy little stump. And she said, oh my gosh, it's a piece of the Flowering Bridge. And we both, shed a little tear. And I told her I had the other piece for her, but I wanted to clean it up before I gave it to her. I hope they'll hang it somewhere nice so we can all remember what a lovely spot that used to be.
Yeah, that's what we need in situations like this. Some positivity and some
hope.
light. Yeah, a little bit of hope and some light at the end of the tunnel. Also, I was just thinking too, is there anything that you would like to share about your experience? Everybody loves to hear these stories and want to feel that they're contributing, even if it's only through prayer.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just don't have the money to be able to come out
Sure.
to offer services. Some people can't even afford to donate, but everybody can be able to donate their time. And time is not always physical. Sometimes it is very spiritual.
Yeah.
And just saying a prayer and a wish for everything to turn out for God's glory. So is there anything that you would like to say to anyone that wants to help but just don't know how?
I think the power of prayer is a very powerful force.
Amen. Sure is.
And that's true whether you think of it as prayer or you think of it as, good juju in the universe, whatever your framework is for how you look at that. I think when human beings put their positive thoughts out there in the world, it makes things happen.
Exactly, right.
So it doesn't matter if you're particularly religious or non-religious, you can still believe in the power of collective positivity. And certainly we need a lot of that right now. That's definitely something people can do if they don't have money. A lot of my friends I've asked them to go through their kitchens and their pantries and empty out their back stock of, snacks or that extra tube of toothpaste that you've got in your, whatever you have that's one thing extra. And my friends have been wonderful. They've put together enough donations to fill my car 3 different times to come up here. And whether that's clothes, my cousin lost her husband several years ago and her mother last year. And she took this opportunity to donate her husband's clothes and her mother's clothes to the people who are facing a winter in western North Carolina where it's rather chilly and we get a lot of snow, and they don't have anything but the clothes they escaped from their homes in.
Wow.
So they need some warm clothes. I've got another friend in Pennsylvania her friends, they're all putting together a care package of hats and gloves and mittens and scarves and things for winter weather gear, and they're going to ship those down to me, and I'm going to bring them here and get them into the right hands. So you don't have to have money if you have a little something extra in your home that you can do without. Right? You can do that.
Like bath soap too?
Anything. People don't have a toothbrush. They don't have soap. They don't have, feminine hygiene products. They don't have, the firefighters and first responders were out here trying to cut debris, and they were getting attacked by wasps. And so people started donating their Benadryl. So, things like that. It's amazing what's needed when you've literally lost everything.
So what you're saying is it doesn't have to be $1,000 that you spent. It could be a $2 toothpaste
Yes, I gave a couple of people here some of my own personal clothing, a couple women I knew who were about my size. And you know, and now we're laughing at each other when I see them. I'm like, hey, nice t-shirt, you know. So we have a little moment of levity in amongst all of this.
Is there anything that you know of that people could do to get that tube of toothpaste here, or bar of soap, or a toothbrush?
I know of the local drop points in Lake Lure. So I've been taking food to the Mennonite kitchen that's up there in the Ingalls parking lot. I've dropped a bunch of food for them. I've taken a lot of food to Lourdes Market so that they could feed the first responders. I've dropped donations at Lourdes Market and at the Parks and Rec building in Lake Lure and up at the Ingalls parking lot. The communities will get them to the people in need.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to ask you about Ingalls.
Yeah.
So if somebody is in the area, then they could just come down 64 and go all the way to Ingalls.
Correct.
Because 64 goes right to Ingalls, right?
It
right
does.
to the Ingalls store?
Yeah.
Is that a store, right? That's a store. I don't know
Yeah.
if I've ever been in Ingalls.
Well, 64, you have to turn left to go up Route 9, just an eighth of a mile. But
Okay.
yeah, 64 to Route 9.
Okay.
There's a Starbucks tent out there that was passing out free coffee the other day. I think you guys have a sign there. What's your name? Christian
Aid Ministries.
Aid Ministries. Yeah, I saw your sign there today. The FEMA trailer is there.
Now the Christian Aid Ministries, I see there was like 4 different trailers there. So they've been here for a while, right?
They have an amazing presence there. And at first I was collecting food to bring to Lourdes Market donation site so that the displaced citizens of Lake Lure could have food to eat. And then I started shifting and bringing food service sized food to Lourdes Market so that they could cook and provide lunch every day and dinner for first responders and for displaced community members. And then I realized that the Mennonite kitchen up at the Ingalls was also doing that for the other side of the lake. So I started dropping food service sized food there. And this isn't stuff that I'm just going out and buying. This is all of my network in Greenville has been just donating, and my garage was popping at the gills with my friends' generosity, which was really great.
Yeah. And some people ask me, how can I put a smile on my face? You know, and my response usually always to them is, put others above yourself.
Absolutely.
And I tell you right there, I said, you may not believe me, but I said, that will turn your life around.
100%.
Exactly.
The first couple days after this storm, I was not here in the upstate or in North Carolina for the storm. I was on vacation at the beach in South Carolina, and we had our own little mini hurricane event there during the vacation. But I just had to wait to come back up here because nobody could get access to the town, and I didn't have power at my house in Greenville. So I just kind of hung out for a few days in the Charleston area, and I felt so anxious and fretful and impotent because I wasn't doing something to help.
Right.
The minute I got up here and I was able to, jump into action and just start coming here and seeing what was needed and just jump in and do whatever, I felt better. Right. I think everybody feels better when we're doing something, even if it's just as silly as sorting out all the batteries that were donated. Okay, here's the AA's, here's the AAA's, here's the D's. Whatever was needed is what's needed.
Yeah, because you're doing something that makes a difference.
Exactly.
And even though you may feel that what you're doing is, like you said, silly or insignificant, man, it means the world, no matter what it is.
It really does.
As long as we're helping,
yeah,
it makes a difference. Sometimes helping is just letting somebody talk. Let somebody talk. Trying to understand what they go through. I would like to, if you want to take us on a tour, can you do that? Would you like to do that?
By the time I got to this house, it was just mud everywhere. There was not any standing water left except the little puddle of what remains of our lagoon.
And then when you walked out here, what didn't you see anymore?
Our beautiful water feature is gone. Mm-hmm. Our whole lovely little green space that we had is now just a mud pit. I think I got most of the mud on my lot.
And your water feature was right there, like where that tree is?
Yep, that whole sort of depression area that looks like a muddy crater was a beautiful lagoon with greenery all around it. We all had little docks.
Oh, is that okay?
We
I
all
saw
had little
this.
docks and little boat racks and things.
So you rode boats up and down there?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
There were so many big fish in this. The people who know about this lagoon would come down the canal from the lake. They know how to come down the canal, and they know to come in here and fish because the fishing was so great in our lagoon. Really big. I'd be sitting out on my deck in the evening, and I'd hear the biggest splash. Like, you look over there and you just knew a big whopping fish had just jumped. And
it wouldn't be bass, right?
I'm not sure what kind of fish.
Because when you said big splash, I thought of bass.
There are some large fish in there. There were some large fish in the lagoon. I'm weirdly worried about my wildlife. What's happened to the fish? There were turtles back here. We would get the occasional beaver. We didn't want the beavers. And the Canadian geese, we called them our rowdy teenage posse because they would just come and make a mess of our collective green space. But now I kind of miss the geese, I saw an egret the other day just sort of plucking its way through the mud looking for something to eat. Wow. So I don't know what the wildlife is doing.
Now up there I think it was a pickup truck?
Yeah.
What did that come from somewhere else?
So there's a red pickup truck that got taken and got hung up on a tree down there in the canal. And that greenhouse over there is where that red pickup truck came from. I'll tell you the story of what happened to Bud during this storm. Well, really it happened to both of them. They were up on that second story watching the water rise in the morning of the flood. And Bud decided it was coming. There was more water than what they had thought was going to come in the flood, so he wanted to quickly hook his truck up to his boat and pull the boat and the truck to higher ground. And he went outside to do that, and the water came up so fast that before he realized it, it was up to his neck.
Oh my.
And he did not have time to go back in the house. The water was the current was very fast, and it was trying to take him away with it. So he grabbed on to the support post under his house. His boat was in that, that elevated, or that lower section under the elevated part of the house. Okay. So he was holding on to one of the support posts. His feet were not touching the ground at this point. There was so much water. It was lifted up and he was floating at the top of that support post. He watched his red truck go down the canal. We saw that on the tree over there. He watched his boat go. His wife is in the house too. Now she's watching this from up above and she doesn't know where he is. All she knows is that he went out to move the truck and the boat and didn't come back.
Oh my. So
they watch his truck go, they watch his boat go. My other neighbor just on the other side of that little fence there, they lost their truck. Both of them watched that other truck go down, and then there was another house right next to his cousin Beverly's house, and they all watched Beverly's house get swept downstream.
Oh my.
And for 2 hours, my neighbor Bud, he's an older gentleman and he was hanging on for dear life. 2 hours he was in that water until it receded enough where his feet could touch ground and he could go back up and let his wife know that he was alive and that he needed some medical help after that experience.
I would imagine.
So they came and got him, and he's going to be fine from what I hear. Physically fine.
Well, thank God for that.
But there's going to be obviously some emotional trauma.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And his poor wife, 2 hours wondering where he was at.
I know, and I'm so grateful that story has the ending that it has, that everybody lived through it and it was okay.
Honey, I had breakfast ready 2 hours ago.
Right.
What took you so long?
Your eggs are cold.
Right, exactly. It's good to be able to laugh.
Yeah, you have to, otherwise you just spend all your days crying. I feel like Bud's house has at least 2 to 3 feet of mud underneath it. The town has a utility road that goes through right in front of Bud's house and goes up that way to a silt drop-off point where they normally do some dredging on the lake every year, and that's their sort of silt retaining area. They let it dry out and then they truck it away. I have about, maybe a foot and a half total of additional elevation on my yard with all this mud, but I think that Bud's got about 2 to 3 feet under his house. All this was grass, yeah. The water line for the lagoon basically ran from that clutch of pampas grass to that tree, through, the debris there from my boat rack and my floating dock, over to the other pampas grass, and then around. And those dead bushes or dead limbs that you see over there to the left, those were gigantic, beautiful, big green bushes that were just a lovely little spot for wildlife to hang out. I can't believe the devastation back here.
I mean, I still imagine coming out in the morning with a nice hot cup of coffee, sitting down and admiring the lake there. And
it was idyllic. It was really wonderful, between having the lagoon right there and then, oops, the view of Chimney Rock. Can you see Chimney Rock and the flag up there?
I was wondering if that was Chimney Rock.
So that's Chimney Rock, yeah.
Zoom in up there, about near the top. It looks like we're...
Yeah, 3/4 of the way up. You can see the flag waving.
That's like a tourist place, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a state park. One of the
Is
biggest attractions in this area is Chimney Rock State Park.
Okay, and nobody lives up there?
There are a couple of homes up that way, but most of that is state park area.
Okay.
They had a lovely trail system up there.
Oh, wow.
It was a really neat place. We lost the bridge to the Chimney Rock State Park. We lost the bridge to Southside Drive in Chimney Rock. This is a beautiful little neighborhood just on the other side of the river. And as you can imagine, when that river flooded and it took out half of the buildings on the Chimney Rock business side of the river, it also took out all the waterfront homes on Southside Drive.
Oh my.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, the swath of destruction cannot be understated. It's
Right.
or overstated. I was describing it as apocalyptic. It's
Unbelievable.
unbelievable, the amount
Really?
of debris and stuff. And I know that whoever's watching this video can't really smell the way it smells here, but it smells like a barnyard.
Yeah. Yeah, the
So-
place we were just at, there was a really bad odor, and the guy said what it was all of his ice cream spoiled.
Yeah.
And that's what the smell was, but they
Yeah.
finally getting it all cleaned up. Did you want to show us their basement?
We
Where
can.
they just cleaned out?
Yeah.
The Amish cleaned there?
So my neighbors and I, a few days ago, I came here to try to figure out how to clean my basement. Couldn't even come up with a method. And while I was here, my neighbors 2 doors down were here as well, and those guys helped me dig this original trench.
The little red car.
Yeah, where the little red car is. So they came over and helped me dig out this trench. The water itself had made a little bit of a trench, and then we just sort of dug it out deeper. Your guys have now dug this out a lot deeper, which is great, and gotten a lot more mud out. When I first stepped into that basement, the mud was right at the very top of my boots.
Oh my goodness.
So that's a good foot.
So did you got stuck in the mud too?
I almost did. The first time I came under the house, I picked something up out of the mud and I tried to walk over to my stairs to set it on the stairs, and the mud was so much deeper and squishier on that side, I almost lost it. I almost lost my boot in the mud. I almost lost my balance and just sat down in the mud. At the last second, I balanced out and didn't fall down, but my feet wouldn't move. They were just stuck. I stepped down in. I went down about a good foot, and then I couldn't get my foot out. And my foot was trying to just lift out of my boot altogether. So in here, the water came in. It was about 3.5 feet. You can see the water line over there on the waterproofing membrane.
Was this concrete floor?
This is no, it's a dirt floor,
Or it's
but
like a
it's
root cellar? Kind of, sort of.
kind of, sort of. I call it my basement crawl space.
Uh-huh.
The previous owners had put this great waterproofing system in with a whole house dehumidifier and a sump pump and all this stuff. And that really, I think, has saved my bacon a little bit when it comes to this, because this waterproofing membrane kept the mud from just like settling in and us having to dig it out. We could just wet the mud
Right.
as it was drying. We could wet it again and spray it out.
What is that?
That's the sump pump. So if I do
okay.
get water under the house, the sump pump can pump it out to the side, but it doesn't work when the power's off, obviously.
Right. So do you have any kind of, well, you have power now, right?
I have power now, yeah.
Okay.
That was all submerged, and I need to get it was all running this morning. There was an alarm on the sump pump, but the dehumidifier was running, but that was fully underwater, so I turned everything off because I need the company to come out and take a look at it before I run that. You can see my HVAC system is under here as well, and it got a little bit of water in it, so I need to get that checked also. I'll tell you a story about that house over there. You want to walk over there with me?
Okay.
This poor house, the guy that owns this house, or the people, I don't know if it's a guy or not, but he bought it from people who'd lived there for a long time. It was a distressed property and it needed a complete renovation. And it took him about 2 years to really finish it. But he had it listed for sale this summer, and now the flood came through and just took out the whole underneath of the house. And if you walk all the way around it, you can see all the destruction on that poor house. And it was brand new. It was sitting there ready for its new owner to buy it. And so this poor guy has been through the ringer with that renovation project. And then you can see Bud's red truck there hung up on the tree.
Right,
on
I was
the
getting
other
ready to
side
ask you,
of
the
canal.
truck I just zoomed in on was from this
Yeah.
greenhouse over here.
Yes.
Okay. So where's he at now? I mean, there's nobody there, right?
No,
okay.
they're not there right now. No, he's got another place that he stays, so I'm not sure where that is. My neighbor, Jonathan, is more familiar with him. They're
Okay.
yeah, they've known each other longer than I have. I'm the newbie on the block. I've only been here about 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I tell you what, though, it's been a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, likewise.
And thank you so much for
Thank you for letting me talk about this. It's
yeah,
therapeutic just to get it out.
Right. Thank you. I guess that goes with what I was saying before, that sometimes, let's just go have a cup of coffee with somebody and let's want to hear
Yeah.
what's on their mind.
Yeah, we all have the tendency to want to fix things for people.
Yeah.
When somebody has a problem, we want to come up with a solution or a fix to it. But there's some things that the sheer scope of this, nobody can fix this in a day.
And you're like, where do I begin?
I don't even know where to begin.
Right.
Well, Eddie began for me, because he saw my car here and he came and approached me, introduced himself and gave me his car.
Now, Eddie's the
Yeah, you're
right there.
Eddie.
Okay.
And so when I realized that I had power back again, I knew that I could call him and see if he could come and help me. And I mean, this is just amazing what they've been able to do today. So that's a little fix, which is wonderful. And to me, just getting started on something is better than sitting here and staring at this muddy swath and not being able to do anything about it, because I don't have heavy equipment, and we can't get that kind of stuff in here yet. But maybe in another week, the roads will be more open for outsiders to come in, and they won't be checking IDs and making sure you're a property owner or making sure you have business.
I'm always saying this too to myself sometimes, that instead of sitting around saying why me, I like to say why not me.
Yeah.
Because maybe God chose me to go through this situation because he knows that the next person wouldn't be able to.
Sure.
There's a lot of situations that are super hard to go through, and if you don't have anybody to lean on, anybody to help, like my last video that I just did about my truck, I was in the middle of nowhere and I was broke down. I was crawling up underneath of it in the dirt, trying to figure out what was wrong. I was calling garage after garage after garage, and nobody wanted to help me. Nobody. Yeah. And I felt completely, totally alone.
Yeah.
And that is a horrible feeling, that you're just all alone.
Yeah.
That's why friends are so important.
Friends, family, community. Yeah.
I'm glad I just made a new friend today.
Yes, absolutely.
And also, like I was asking you before, I want to give you my email address so that if you can find that photo you was telling me about.
Oh, I've got a lot of stuff. I can send you pictures of what it looked like before the flood. I told these guys earlier when I was first talking to them about it, we had our own little personal Eden back here.
Right. Yeah. I still imagine sitting up there with a cup of coffee in the morning. And
I know, it was so nice.
I'm a coffeeholic, so. But, well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And, do you have a card? I can get my phone and take down your email address.